DB2, as I mentioned, we're going to look at DB2 from the DB2, the CICS part. And we're going to look at things like incorrect max open TCVs, incorrect DB2 TCV limits, the lack of DB2 entry threads, okay, incorrect thread weights, okay, and I've seen this quite a bit. You can either say, whenever you have the DB2 entry, okay, you can either say, if I run out of string threads, go to the pool, okay, or yes, wait, and no, reject, which goes back to the program. The program has to handle it. Now, I've seen people say, oh, I have 20 pool threads, but I put yes. If you put yes, it never goes to the pool. You just said wait, okay? So this is something which you need to identify. You need to also look at the priority. Okay? Remember, the priority of a DB2 thread is higher than the QR. Unfortunately, there are still a lot of things that happen on the QR. And if you have a lot of L8 TCVs with a higher priority than the QR, you could lock out access to the QR to the TCV to a CPU, which affects the overall we call it overall response times for the system. Okay, I personally always say put low because they're always going to get access because it's going to go over the QR, especially if you have multiple CPUs. However, there are some installations that say DB2 is the highest thing and the most important thing, so I'm going to put high or equal. Okay? I see no reason for that, but that's my own personal thing. Okay? And you have the personalizing and the reuse limit. This reuse is the most important thing that you have for tuning DB2 within CICS, besides having sufficient threads. Okay, these are the things that you can see with DB2. You can see the connection. You can see this is very important because it's how the L8s are being used, and we'll see a copy of that. You'll see the entries, the life of task, which is the actual equivalent of a TCA, the transaction, the task. You will see the transaction name, the transaction ID, thread analysis. These are totals, which are very important. It gives you what the overall reuse is. Okay, and again, here's the one for DB2. The most important things here are what the max open TCVs you have and what your TCV limit. This is how many TCVs you're going to allow for all DB2 connection to use. That includes the pool, and it includes also all the DB2 entries that you define. Okay, and again, what the connect time and the reuse, something that's new in version 5 or version 4. Normally it defaults. You can default it to 0, which makes it like it was before. But some people in DB2 side complain that they hold the strings too long, the threads too long. Okay, by a particular task. Okay, now here's some of the things. This is the different TCVs that are being used by the different transactions that are in the system, and what the name of the plan is. Here is the important part. Here is whether it's being used by the pool or it's being used by a DB2 entry. I hate to see pool. When I see pool, remember that pool doesn't have a reuse. Reuse is controlled by protect the definition. The pool doesn't have any protected threads. They're all normal threads. When you define a DB2 entry, you define a pool. Okay, you define either it's protected or unprotected. The difference between protected and unprotected is here. It's this thing here, okay, which is where I lost it here. I can't see it here. No. It just tells you how long you're going to, here it is, the purge cycle, 0 and 30 seconds. When you have a protected thread, the moment that you finish using it, task finish using it, the CICS will hold that particular thread without modifying it, not doing what the termination part of it, which is to clear it up. It'll hold it for 2 cycles of the purge cycle. 2 cycles will be 2 times 30, 60 seconds. However, that clock is running all the time. So in general, you're really only going to get about 40, it'll hold it for 45 seconds. Okay? What that does basically is it saves CPU cycles for you. Okay? Because you don't have to, when you get a TCB, you have to dress it. When you finish using it, you have to undress it. If you avoid that undressing, and the moment that somebody can reuse it, you save about somewhere between 7 to 9% of the cycles in the system. That means that you improve your response time and you improve your CPU utilization by having protected threads. The manual is on IBM is not really what I call the best thing in the world. I personally say put them all as protected threads. Forget about this unprotected stuff. Okay, you already have it unprotected in your pool. Okay, and what it does basically with protected threads is the probability of you reusing the thread is better, and therefore you reduce your CPU utilization quite a bit by not having to dress and undress the PCB. Okay, and this is where you would find whether you've been using pool threads. Okay, here it'll also tell you what the status is. And if you see here in DB2, that means that that TCB is now connected to DB2 and is doing a read or something, some type of SQL command out in DB2. Okay. This is if you now take this guy, okay, and you put your cursor and hit enter, it'll tell you, okay, this is what you're doing. Who's the person that's doing it? Okay. And if you want to see more information, this is the information. You also have the trace table. Okay, these are the last 4 commands that you've done. Okay, now you can see the entire trace table by hitting PF4 there. Okay, you hit PF4, you'll see the entire trace table of what the person did. And this is the task that was being executed. This is the task before that was using that particular thread, and it tells you what it was doing. APIs and SQL command. What's a sync? What's a dis? What's an ASM? Okay, so we provide a help that tells you what these things are. Okay, and this is the thread use, and it gives you what the recommendation, the look aside that you have, how much reuse you have. 97.54% reuse is excellent. Okay, that means that you only had 2.46% of the times that you had to undress the TCB. So you're doing excellent from a point of view of getting it. And we're making a change to this particular screen. This says recommendation. What happens is when you get the situation where you use all 34 strings, okay, then you will get a recommendation that says increase by 5. It'll give you a recommendation. That's the number of TCBs that you should increase, threads. We're going to be changing that to include the percentage on each one of the ones that are being used. And if there's a recommendation, it'll overlay that. And that's the change that should be ready by August.